thanks to all of you for coming today. It is wonderful to be here at the Women's Forum. And I think it really speaks volumes to see the emphasis here and all of you that are here, given the fact that cities are working so hard to make cycling a vital part of their infrastructure, because they know it's not only important for safety, but it's important for economic development, it's important for health. It's just a wonderful way that cities are increasingly competing against one another. And I really want to thank Nicole for that wonderful introduction. I don't know if all of you know, but Nicole left as the director of Boston's bike share program, biking programs. And it only took 4 months before the mayor had to call begging her to come back to Boston. And so, you know, what a powerful woman can do to transform a city, and that mayors are starting to get that, I think, is a wonderful sign. At the Bike Summit, and it becomes more and more timely each year as cities continue to make investments in high-quality projects and cycling infrastructure. And, you know, I'm not a transportation psychologist, I'm not a transportation sociologist, so I'm not going to talk about what would make women ride bikes more easily than men, but I'm sure there are a lot of experts here. I could talk about all of the amazing women in leadership positions at New York City DOT and how New York City drivers that kill or seriously injure cyclists and pedestrians are overwhelmingly male, 80%, but I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to focus on today is how we've taken the raw material of a city and forged it into a truly world-class cycling city. And that's making cycling much more accessible for everyone. So in the last 5 years, we have pioneered great new bikeway designs. We've broken new ground on indoor parking regulations. We've more than doubled the number of cyclists on city streets. And we've planned the largest bike share system in North America. And we've done it, yes, we've done it. And we've built a lot of enthusiasm along the way. And here's how we were able to do it. It began with Mayor Bloomberg, who launched a long-range planning and sustainability program in 2007. And Plan YC argued that urban growth is good for the planet because of the inherent efficiencies of cities. But we needed, yes, yes, it's good. But we needed to make these cities more efficient and more livable if we were going to make that growth work. And it dramatically changed how it is that street design policy was set by setting new targets in terms of making the city's buses work better, making the public realm work better, and making cycling into a mainstream form of transportation. Not an alternative form of transportation, but a mainstream form of transportation. And without this kind of clear policy framework, I don't think that we would have been able to get as much done as we have on the streets of New York. Because to undertake real change, you really have to have a sense of where you're going. So we took the major policy directions from Plan YC and we turned it into a strategic plan, which was an action plan called Sustainable Streets. We grabbed the top 150 transportation leaders at the City Department of Transportation to forge this plan, to find out what had worked in the past, what didn't work, what were some of the innovations that had been bottled up, and they came together to agree on the projects, on the programs, and the benchmarks so that the public could hold us accountable for the streets of New York. And they really did respond in an incredible way. It was great to see their buy-in. And our work on cycling is also being driven by a complete overhaul of the streetscapes of New York City. And we're updating a huge capital resource that really has not been updated for a very, very long time. In fact, our streets have really been in suspended animation for the last 50 years. And when you think about it, the last major change on New York City streets happened in the 1950s when major avenues in Manhattan were turned from two-way to one-way. That was during the Eisenhower administration, at a time when the country was embarking on creating a whole new interstate system. And when you think about it, if you were a business that didn't change the way you did business for 50 years, do you think you would still be in business? So we're really balancing now, rebalancing and bringing community design and safety back to the table where traffic engineering had really crowded them out. And we're working hard to extend the cycling network. You can see here we've added 200 miles from 1995 to 2005, and we added another 200 miles from 2007 to 2009. So 200 miles in 3 years was a major milestone that we pushed to meet. And we put this sign up on the Grand Concourse in the Bronx when we completed that 200th mile. And you can see what this has done to the network over the past 6 years. This is what we found in 2005, and this is where it is in 2012. I really love to do this because it looks so easy. But there are more than lines on the map, as you know. And what we've done is we've created an interconnected system, not just a handful of bike lanes. And that has made a huge difference. And you can see that actually in the numbers themselves when the numbers really start spiking with the 200-mile investment and the projects that we got underway. Another factor that I think has generated more cycling is our pioneering of protected bike lanes. We put the first protected bike lane in the United States in 2007. It had terrific results. You can see we set it off with the floating parking. You can see the results here. It's a very easy way to make changes and protect cyclists with the car infrastructure. We did it with floating parking. We also did it with floating plazas. This is in Midtown Manhattan. And you can also see we basically just changed the street regulations to make a street safer for cycling. And this is the famous Prospect Park West bike lane. I think one of the biggest innovations that we've brought to the country is really the fact that we've moved quickly to innovate these projects and brought the benefits quickly. And you've seen that in the rapid increase in cycling. And everywhere we've put these bike lanes in, we've seen safer streets, and we've seen that they're better for business. We've adapted them to site-specific locations. This is a median down in Chinatown. And some of the benefits of cycling, we talk about the health benefits, we talk about the mobility benefits, but some of the benefits are a little more subtle. This is on First Avenue in Manhattan. You can see it's, 9th Avenue in Manhattan. With more people biking and with more traffic calming improvements, we've made the street much more attractive, and it's been much better for business. So you can see here on 8th and 9th Avenue, we implemented this project 3 years ago, and in the 3 years since we've implemented it, retail sales have increased 50% along the corridor. And that is great news, and I think it's important for everybody to understand because it's a very important part of the advocacy equation. And that increase is 2 times that of surrounding neighborhoods. We found the same thing in Brooklyn on Vanderbilt Avenue when we put this biking lane in. And it used to be 2 lanes of moving traffic in each direction. There didn't used to be any greenery. And again, retail sales doubled, twice that of the surrounding neighborhoods. On 1st and 2nd Avenue, we created a bus lane, moving traffic, bike lanes, the floating lanes, again, pedestrian refuge islands, and we saw a very positive impact. What we saw was that 47% less commercial vacancies on this corridor, despite a slight increase Manhattan-wide in commercial vacancies. So again, cycling is good for business. And you see a very positive impact on the bike industry. We've seen a 70% increase in bike retail stores since we started the program in 2007, and that's despite the Great Recession. So in addition to riding bikes, people need places to park once they get there. And we did a big design competition for bike racks, bringing high quality design to the streets of New York. This is the new design. We have since installed 8,000 of them on the streets of New York. And we are moving forward starting this spring with repurposing our parking meters. And we're bringing the same design to our parking meters. And I think that's going to be a terrific enhancement to the streets. We are focusing on high quality design, using the beautiful Samusa bus shelters to create high quality bike parking in heavily utilized areas. And the other pieces that we're doing is moving forward with bike corrals and repurposing bike parking, car parking lanes for bikes. And you can accommodate 15 bikes for every car. And in parts of Brooklyn, if you actually stop for a minute, somebody's going to chain a bike to you. So there is a tremendous hunger and need for more bike parking. And local businesses are requesting these, and these are approved by community boards. So again, there's a strong, strong demand for this mobility enhancement, making it easier for people to get around by bike. You can also have fun with the designs. This is a bike rack designed by David Byrne that is in front of Bergdorf Goodman's. And we have these over town. They're site specific, so there's a dollar sign on Wall Street. There is a coffee cup on the Upper West Side. They are tailored to local neighborhoods. We also worked hard with the City Council to secure legislation that mandates that commercial office buildings with freight elevators provide bike access for cyclists. And so far we have 800 buildings that have filed bike access plans, which has been great. And San Francisco, I think, just recently followed with the first follow-on legislation in that regard. You can see with the construction of 300 miles of new bike lanes, we've doubled the number of people that are commuting, and yet crashes are flat. And so there is really an important point here about safety in numbers. And you can also see that with our cycling risk indicators, the average cyclist on city streets much safer than they were 10 years ago. We're working hard to get the message out about safe cycling. Sometimes cyclists don't do us any favors by riding the wrong way. So we enlisted John Leguizamo, an actor, to help us with the Don't Be a Jerk campaign. We also had Mario Batali, the cook, the chef, do one for us, and Polina Porskova, a model, again, just trying different ways to get the message out about cycling safety. We are also building the message into existing infrastructure. We've got these decals that are being installed on all of the 13,000 yellow cabs in the city, and we're making that available. If any of you are interested in those decals, we're providing them. So you can contact us, and we'll get you to the design. The experience of cycling has changed a lot, dramatically since the 1980s and the 1990s, when even sympathetic riders started talking about it, like surfing the beast. And today, you don't need to surf a wave of steel to get around town. And consequently, our typical cyclist has undergone a bit of a transformation. And to the point where I think we're really seeing the 8 to 80 standard of cycling. We're seeing much more women and families cycling now. I heard Jan Gell talk about the fact that they measure, just like scientists measure the health of a stream by the number of fish that are in it. He looks at the number of women and families in bike lanes as an indicator of the safety of those bike lanes, and we believe that strongly here. This is a major avenue in Manhattan. It's Columbus Avenue. I'm going to wrap up in a moment, but I do want to touch on the public debate about biking, cycling in New York. And as many of you know, as all of you probably know, when you push the status quo pushes back. And 2 years ago, reporters were very fond of blowing up a few local complaints and turning it into a bike backlash. And the stories and the editorials all seemed to feed on one another, and it turned into this, vicious cycle. But if you really scratch beneath the headlines, what you'll see is that there's always been much stronger support than opposition for our bike lanes. And most of the lanes that we have installed have been supported by the local communities and requested by local communities in a huge variety of settings. And local institutions themselves are getting organized so that they ensure that they get their fair share of bike lanes. And you can see this from a community board in Queens. Eventually, the pollsters got interested in all the stories that came up about this backlash, and they started doing some opinion polling. And what happened was that it was a great reminder that sometimes headlines are really behind the opinion of actual people. And in fact, in many instances, they could be miles apart. So there were 7 polls that were taken from March 2011 to August 2012. And the findings have been consistent across a wide variety of research and institutions and outlets. And it's 2-to-1 support, in support of these bike lanes. And I think that the support may even be higher today. We saw a tremendous increase after Hurricane Sandy hit, where many people took to their bikes when the transit system was down. In fact, we saw a 3-fold increase in cycling across the East River Ridges after Sandy. So I'm going to close with a quick look ahead of what's to come. Soon you're going to see ads like this on the streets of New York to build momentum for the nation's largest bike share system. This is sort of a tease of the tease that you'll see when you come to New York. How many of you have been to New York and seen the cycling infrastructure? Oh, that is great. Well, I am hoping that all of you come this summer and take a ride on one of the over 5,000 city bikes that we're going to have around town. And I really can't say enough for City, who's been a really great partner in making this project happen at no cost to taxpayers. And City Bike is going to add a great new set of features and facilities to the streets of New York. Again, we've got them beautifully designed. I really do think that aesthetics has a very important role to play in the design of complete streets. And it will really leverage our investment in the bike network and help complete that first mile, last mile to public transit. There's been incredibly strong support for the bike share program. In fact, the poll numbers show almost 2 times the support for bike lanes than for the leading candidates to succeed Mayor Bloomberg. So we're very excited about that. Bike lanes for mayor. So we're also going to have the coolest app for bike share. It's going to come with a complete set of navigational tools. Oof, it's coming soon. I can hardly wait. So I do hope that you come to New York City soon and borrow, rent, share a bike and get out there to see the streets of New York. It is the best way to get around and experience the city. In the interim, while we wait for you to arrive in New York, I encourage you to follow us online. And again, all of the work that we've been able to get done has been possible because of the advocacy of the people in this room. It really does take everybody coming together. We were able to get this work done because of years of work on the advocacy side. And so I can't say enough thanks to all of you for all of your good work and look forward to seeing all your success in cities all across the nation. Thank you.